Hello, welcome to another brand new episode filled with wonderful books only on Books with Not Just Britt. Today's video is a long pending video. I mean, I had shot this video for the first time almost about 5 to 6 weeks back, and then when I sat down to start editing the video, I realized that the camera that I was shooting the video on that had died midway. So I just did not capture half of the video. And after that, I sort of shelved the video idea for a while, but I'm finally shooting this video. Fingers crossed, I believe this time I will be able to release it. If you are watching this video, that means I was successful. All right, well, if you've been watching my videos for a while, following me for a bit, you would know that there are certain authors that I've really talked about a lot on this channel, and one of them has been Fredrik Backman. In fact, my first or maybe the second video that I did on this very channel was reviewing the first two books by Fredrik Backman. Today, what I wanted to do was talk about all the other books that I have read by Fredrik Backman, and then sort of rank these books by the order in which I liked them. So I will talk about these books in a chronological order of when they were published, and then towards the end of the video, I would rank them from best to least best, because I don't want to call a book Fredrik Backman book worst. So Fredrik Backman is a Swedish journalist turned author, and he has written, I think, about 10 or 11 books. I have read 8 of his books. In my first video, I talked about the first 2. In this video, I wanted to talk about the remaining 6. So this episode is really like an author's review. So if this is something that is interesting, then please do carry on watching this video. And as always, if you like the work that I'm doing, please consider subscribing to my channel and also share the videos with your family and friends. So with that, and without losing any more precious minutes, let's dive into today's book reviews. So just to recap on the first 2 books by Fredrik Backman, the first one was A Man Called Ove, and the second one was My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes. I will not talk a single line about those books because I have talked about those books in details in one video which I will link above, and in some of the other subsequent videos as well. I will put all the links in the description box below. So here I'm going to start with book number 3, and that is Britt Was Here. Now this is a strange book because I just cannot recollect how I read that book. I just remember that I read the book because I remember the story of the book. I don't have a hard copy of the book. I don't have a Kindle copy of the book, and I don't even have an audio copy of the book. So I just don't remember at all how I read this book. Maybe I borrowed it from someone, or maybe I borrowed it on Audible and returned it. I just have no clue. I don't know. Does that happen to you sometimes, where you think you've read a book, you remember the story, but you just can't remember how you read that book because you just can't locate that book? Anyways, let's get back to the book. So Britt Was Here is sort of a sequel to, it's not really a sequel, but you can say that it's a sequel to My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes. Now, if you've read that book, then Britt was a character in that book who is always seen cleaning, specks of unseen dust from her skirt and blouse. And she's the one who keeps admonishing Ulrika, who was Elsa's mother in that book. She keeps admonishing Ulrika for drinking so much caffeine. So Britt in the book My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes was not a central character, but she was one of the characters that was introduced to us. And in this particular book, Britt Was Here, she is pretty much the main character. So Britt in this book is shown to move out of the house that she was living in, and she takes up a job in a wretched town somewhere in Sweden, and she becomes sort of a community helper. And the first thing that she has to do, or the first job at hand, is to train the soccer team of that town. And Britt Murray knows nothing about soccer. But what she knows best is how to clean. And that's what she does. She starts her job as a community helper slash a soccer team coach by starting to clean. If you want to find out more, then grab your copy of the book and give it a read. It is 320 odd pages long, so just go and grab it. The fourth book that I want to talk about is a short story, and every morning the way home gets longer and longer. Wow, did I say it right? Now, this is a short story written by Fredrik Backman about a grandson and his grandfather, and wherein they keep reminding each other of not to forget each other. This book is about, shall I call it, slow farewell. So the grandfather talks to his grandson about the memories that they had created together inside his head. And once again, we'll see Fredrik Backman talk about the special bonds of family relationships that exist. And in this case, it's the grandfather and the grandson relationship, as well as a father and son relationship. In this book, he also talks about fear, and very specifically the fear of getting old, and how the fear of getting old is greater than the fear of dying. The story tells us not to be scared, because if I quote the book, it says, because it is good to wet yourself as it keeps the bears away. Not sure what that means. I think you should give this book a read. This book is only 97 pages long. As I said, it's a short story. Book number 5 and 6, I want to put them together because they almost come as a set, and that is Bear Town and Us Against You. So these two books, as I said, are part of a 3-book series. I think the 3rd book has come out already, or probably it will come out very soon this year. So these 2 books talk about a particular town as the center, and an ice hockey team, and then again in typical Fredrik Backman style, families and friends and human relationships. So Bear Town is a nondescript town somewhere in Sweden, and it tries to revive itself through its ice hockey team. But as it tries to do that, families within the community, within the town, are going away from each other. They are growing apart. This is probably the only book that I have read from the entire Backman series which focuses on a particular sport and brings its center stage, and then uses that to depict the emotions and the human relationships that he usually talks about. Here what we see is, as the successes of the ice hockey team grows, in the same pace the townspeople grow suspicious of each other, grow apathy towards each other, and then a terrible incident occurs in the town, and we are to see how the townspeople react to that. Are they able to reconcile their differences and get together, or are they not able to do that? These 2 books are slightly long. They're about 400 pages long, each of these. And as I said, this is part of a 3-book series, so it is best to read them in order. So you need to read Bear Town first, and then Us Against You, and then the final book, which is yet to come out or should come out very soon. Now, the 7th book is again a short story book, and that's called The Deal of a Lifetime. This was published in the year 2017, and the story focuses on a father, a son, and a 5-year-old girl who's dying. And this girl has a rabbit called Babbitt and wants to paint a chair red because apparently the chair wants to be red. Again, this is only 65 pages long, and so I really can't talk about a lot of this book because, well, if I speak a few more sentences, I would probably have talked about the book completely. So I think it's a very short read. If you happen to, or if you get a chance to read this book, I would suggest that you get your copy. Now, book number 8 is something that he recently published in 2019, and that's The Anxious People. Now, this is about 340 pages long. This story is about a set of unrelated people who have come to an apartment viewing, and then a bank robbery going wrong, and the bank robber allegedly taking these people as hostages. While everyone in this apartment viewing, including this bank robber who's taking them hostage, they're seemingly all unrelated, but there is one underlying emotion that is running through them, and that is they're all anxious about something in their lives. And that is the premise of The Anxious People. There's a young lesbian couple, there's a wealthy bank manager, there's an elderly woman, there is a middle aged couple who buy and sell apartments, and then of course there is the bank robber. And all of these, if you see, are have so different backgrounds, but the one thing in common, as I said, is anxiety. Personally, I have followed Bachman since I read A Man Called Ove a few years back. And Bachman actually had sort of an emotional breakdown in 2017. And I almost feel that Anxious People is like his comeback novel, and it sort of reflects a lot from his experiences that he had during his mental breakdown. Again, it is my personal opinion. I haven't read that anywhere in any of the reviews or anywhere else. So you can probably disagree with that, which is absolutely fine. But as I said, this is how I would put it. So with that, I've completed talking about the 6 books of the 8 books that I have read of Fredrik Backman already. And now it's time to rank these books, in my opinion, from the most loved to the least loved. So are you ready? Cool. All right. Okay, let's start with the least loved book, or the book that I loved the least amongst all the books that I've read by Bachman. Unfortunately, the book that leads that chart is Us Against You. Following closely at the heels of Us Against You is Beartown, which is at number 7. So collectively, Beartown and Us Against You are my least loved books of Fredrik Backman. Now, the reason I say that is in these books, I felt that Fredrik Backman was trying to be himself, but it almost felt like somebody else was writing in Bachman's style. He tried to be emotional. He tried to be that, that witty humor that he often has when he's talking about emotional things, but it did not really reach the mark of some of his previous books, some of his other works. And it was almost like he was trying too hard to be himself in the book and failing miserably. And for that reason, I rate these 2 books as the least loved Fredrik Backman reads for me. Number 6 on this list is Britt Was Here. In this particular book, I really lacked the warmth that Fredrik Backman books usually have. Was it intentional or not intentional? I do not know. But the story lacked the character and the depth and the emotions that most of his books carry. And for that reason, it's the 3rd least loved book of Fredrik Backman for me. On number 5 is the most recent book that I read of Backman, and that is The Anxious People. For me, as I said earlier, it seems to be his comeback novel, where it looks to be more in line with his style of writing, very, very fluidly and effectively and efficiently brings out this human emotions and the relationships. I think he was getting close to that, but it is not as much as his, former novels, where he does it with finesse and fluidity. So now we're getting into the territory where I can talk about the most loved books, really, right? Because we're almost like halfway. On the 4th place is The Deal of a Lifetime. If you remember, this is a short story about a man, his son, and a 5-year-old girl that is dying. It is just 60 odd pages long, but it is a beautiful, beautiful story. So like the Fredrik Backman style. So every other sentence in that book brings out some human emotions that you at times never knew you had. And it's just a brilliantly written book. And hence, I would say it is the top 4 of the most loved books by Fredrik Backman. Okay, now we are getting very close to the number 1 spot. So the book that is on number 3 is And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. This is, as I said earlier, is again a short story about 97 pages long, and is about a grandfather and his grandson and how they are reliving the memories that they had built together. Talks about fear and love and these relationships between father and son and grandfather and grandson. It's again a typical Fredrik Backman style. It packs a punch in such a short amount of pages. and it's an absolute superstar of a short story, I would say. All right, so now we have only the second and the first position left. If you have followed me for a while, I don't think this will come as a surprise at all, because in the very first video that I did give away the fact that these are not just probably my best Fredrik Backman reads, but also one of the best reads of my entire life. So at number 2 is My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologizes. It's a beautiful, beautiful story about a granddaughter, Elsa, and the relationship that she shares with her grandmother. If you want to know more about this book, as I said in the beginning, I already have done a video and I will give all the links in the description box. And with that, I think it is very evident that the most loved book by Fredrik Backman, in my opinion, is A Man Called Ove, which is also his debut novel. It was released in the year 2012, and it has sold, I think, millions of copies worldwide. It's been translated in many, many languages. And if you read the book, you would know why it is one of the best books, not just by Fredrik Backman, but any writer. Really, it's one of the best books that I have read in a long, long time. As I said again, I'll put all the links down below in the description box so that you can view the individual videos as well that I've talked about. So with that, it's a wrap on today's episode. I hope you really liked it, and if you did, do share and like this video. And with that, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, do stay healthy and stay safe. And I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.